We put together this motley crew, no pun intended, of music moguls and veterans here to discuss Ozzy, of course, passed away a few weeks ago. And it's crazy on our algorithms. It's still all Ozzy on Instagram. It's still Ozzy tribute and this and that. It's just crazy how much his passing affected so many people in so many different genres.
It is
big time.
It's overwhelming. Like you just said that just now, Chris, and it hasn't really hit. It hit, but it didn't hit. You know what I mean? It can't be true to me. It's like Ozzy's a staple. You know, it's a staple in all of our lives, and all of this has been said. But my God, it's still now. And plus, we're also hearing all these songs and all these great tributes to him. It was really like losing a family member. It really is. I feel like that. And it's like,
I think we all do, by the way.
Yeah, you don't leave it. It doesn't leave. It doesn't leave.
It's funny. I just sorry, Robert. I hold that thought. I just saw a video of James Brown birthday in 1993 video tribute, and it's all these funk artists and Ozzy's involved in it, doing funk music, like, involved in everything. But go ahead, Robert.
No, it's absolutely surreal. But he's a fixture in society, not just our world. He's like transcended so many different social situations, and who doesn't know who Ozzy is? Nobody.
Yeah, the most famous heavy metal hard rock artist of all time in so many ways. And just to go through the rogues gallery, we've got Frankie from Anthrax, Robert Mason from Warrant, Phil Soussan from Last in Line, Brian Slagel from Metal Blade Records here. So let's just kind of go through this a bit, because it's crazy, Frank. I was going to text you after watching you with Anthrax and then in the All-Star Jams at the Back to the Beginning, and I didn't even have a real chance to text you before Ozzy passed away. So first of all, how awesome was that show for you, getting to play not just with Anthrax, but getting to play with all these amazing solo artists, including the career-making performance of Youngblood, which just blew him out of the water in so many ways.
It was surreal, obviously. Look, the whole setup, let's remember this. We've known this for a while, that we were going to play this thing. This thing was happening. That alone is a lot of pressure for everybody involved, because it's Sabbath. It's where we live.
Right.
We wanted to do our best. There were songs going back and forth. We really didn't know what song we were going to play until like a week and a half before. So because other bands came in and wanted these songs, and it was really tough. So thankfully they settled on Into the Void for Anthrax, which came out great. I was very happy with our performance. And I'll tell you, man, Chris, backstage, it was more like a great vibe hang. There's no competitiveness. It was all for one big cause. It was for this thing and saying thank you. That's the vibe that was backstage. Well, everybody hanging out, just getting to see everybody after so long, and just saying thank you to this amazing thing that's been in our lives, for all of our lives. So,
Lars called it heavy metal summer camp.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, it was great. I saw Lars. I saw James. I haven't hung out with James in so long. It was great to catch up with him on the side of the stage for half an hour. We're talking, and then we get to play, right? And then this all-star thing comes up. And Youngblood, to be honest, I didn't know him before. I did some background research on him. Great singer, all of the above, but I knew it, dude. When we went to rehearsal, Youngblood just comes up, Frank, and I guess he's an Anthrax fan. I didn't even know this, which is awesome, right? So gives me a big hug, the warmest, sweetest guy in the world, right? So we start this rehearsal thing, and man, let me just tell you, he knocked it from that point on. He just did the same performance in rehearsal that he did at the stadium, and he just brought it. And you just felt it was like a Jagger. He's got this Jagger vibe to him, like this Mick Jagger star thing to him. You just want to watch and just hang. So look, I was happy to be there. It was a great night. I'll never forget that audience participation vibe when he just kind of did that Freddie Mercury kind of vibe. It really, feeling that crowd thing from the stage was overwhelming, to say the least. And all I can think of, I'm so happy that Black Sabbath and Ozzy see this. And that's really all I saw. And that's all I thought. I was so psyched about it. I went off. I'm still on a high from it, to be honest, because people keep reminding me,
Mm-hmm. Now, we've got some guys here that played with Ozzy, and there's so much to talk about, so we'll jump around when we can. Phil, You obviously were with Ozzy on the Ultimate Sin record and tour. So many great band members over the years in so many configurations. But I think the Ultimate Sin record was one of the best lineups to Jakey Lee, Randy Castillo, and yourself, especially for that mid 80s, it's not pop, it's not glam, it's just fucking Ozzy, but it's such a great period in his career.
Yeah. So, I see that as I see Ozzy's career as having gone in 3 chapters. There was the first chapter where he was the bat-biting Satanist of the underground heavy metal movement, and everybody was convinced that he was the devil incarnate. Here, probably not that as big as you would think in Britain. I think quite underground. Black Sabbath were always underground. They were always there. But, metal has this tendency of going underground and then coming to the surface and going underground, but it's always present. It just happens to be in different, states of recognition. The second chapter of Ozzy's career, I think, was a pivotal moment when he went from that to being a household name.
Mm.
And that happened as a result of The Ultimate Sin. It happened as a result of Shot in the Dark.
Mm.
And so when that song came out, all of a sudden, it was his first commercial hit. We were pegging the MTV charts. I think we were number 2 for 6 months. We were all over the radio stations, and it really transitioned Ozzy Osbourne into a household name, into a commercial recognized name. So after that, of course, came the TV show and all of that, which sort of showed him his kind of humorous tongue-in-cheek side. But for me, being part of that pivotal moment was remarkable. And just seeing how it was almost like I don't know what, it was. I flew on Concorde one time, the plane, and when you take off, they can't fly supersonic over land because it would destroy all the windows and shit. So they sort of fly at a sort of normal speed, and then they say, once we're over the coast of Ireland, we're over the ocean, we're going to accelerate. It was the same as that.
Mm.
All of a sudden, this plane just goes, and you feel like you're taking off times 3. Same thing with Ozzy. There was this career, and then all of a sudden, this single comes out, and a whole new world opens up. I think we were all surprised, including Ozzy.
Mm.
And that really cemented him into the public eye as a household name, as somebody who was a personality. The third part of his career, I think, is probably the most important, where he sort of went back to revisiting who Black Sabbath were, who early Ozzy was, with the additional artillery of commercial success. And that all of a sudden started influencing all of these bands. I mean, it started with the grunge thing, and then it went on. And that's his legacy. That's where you see so many bands like you guys have been talking about, so many bands in this world who have a direct tie of influence to someone like Ozzy. And that is his legacy. That's what people are going to remember him for. And those bands are going to be there for a long, long time into the future. And they're going to be protecting his legacy a long time into the future. So it was quite a roller coaster ride in a simple sentence. It was great times.
Robert, let's talk to you here. I think your story with Ozzy is one that people kind of know, but I've never heard it from you. And this is, you were Ozzy's backup singer, basically, but like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. Look, let's talk about this, because I don't think I've never heard this story before, although I know that you did this.
Quite literally. Well, mostly because I didn't talk about it for 20 some odd years. The shortest version, for the sake of this episode, because it would be a few, is that one day Sharon got the idea, apparently, the way I understand the story, Sharon got the idea to use a live human to do background vocals on tour for their Ozzmosis record tour, 95, 96. They had played some theater shows and in the States. And I knew about that and didn't go see any, but I knew the record had come out. I was in Arizona doing sessions in between bands at Liberty, as they say. And she started calling around, like, what do you do when you're looking for a live background vocalist for a rock tour? You go call producers, She called Max Norman. She called Keith Olsen. She called around, people. And I had made records with Keith similarly to No Rest for the Wicked. We had done that first Lynch Mob record,
right,
with Keith. And I was doing sessions for Keith Olsen. So I knew everybody around, and a couple of producers, a couple of engineers. Apparently, this is, again, what I understand from the phone call I got later. My name came up 3 out of the 4 first phone calls she made. So the 5th phone call was to my place, like to my house. And it pretty much, she explained it that way and said, look, we're going out on a tour. As long as you can do it, as long as you can commit to this, please do. You're who we want. Let's work out the details and do it. And after a short period of time, I was on a plane to Copenhagen or Stockholm or something like that. I don't know, from Arizona. And it's funny because the day before, I get FedEx with my plane tickets, physical paper plane tickets. Remember, this is 95, like November 95, like right after Thanksgiving. And CDs, a stack about so high, which is credit to his catalog. Every Black Sabbath and Ozzy CD and everything. I'm like, who doesn't have these? I have all of them.
Here's Blizzard of Oz. Listen to this.
Right. Wait.
Ever hear this?
Let me. Boy, I better brush up. So I spent the whatever it is, 17, 18 hours or whatever it was with a set list of 17, 18 songs and listening to these CDs. And it's like, this is amazing. So I landed and slept a few hours, woke up. Car was waiting to take me to the arena and got a laminate made and met everybody. I had met Oz before and I knew Zach from back home and Randy Castillo. Geezer was playing bass. That was like, what a trip. I'm singing background vocals in half of Black Sabbath.
Wow.
And sing. But credit to Oz because he does all those. He does an amazing job doing all the background vocals on all those records, like doubling and tripling his own voice. And those records sound so iconic, and that's what they wanted. To their credit, they probably could have used rudimentary keyboard samples at the time or something like that, or tapes or whatever. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted a real life human. And I ended up not doing that gig that night, sitting around talking to everybody. The next day, I showed up for Soundcheck, did 2 songs, and Oz looks over to stage right and just goes, "You're in," and just walks off. And I'm like,
no rehearsal, just 2 soundchecks.
Yeah,
man, 2 songs in Soundcheck. I think we did. What did we do? God, I don't know. And Perry Mason, probably, because there were a bunch of keyboards, and that was the new record. So that was a single that they wanted to get right. There's a ton of backing vocals. It was so cool. I mean,
I think the song
in the world.
I think the song on that tour was called Robert Mason.
Well, okay.
Robert
Mason again. So a couple of months into the tour, we're back in the States, and I'm walking back now, and I had a pipe and drape, like I had a tent, and made out of scrim and tubing. That was off stage right, just at the deck level. I had about 1.5 feet to look across the deck to see him and the band. So I was like staring up at Geezer half the time going, Terry Butler, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
And doing backgrounds, but Oz will go like, I want to see a crazy crowd, and like go like this out in the audience. And I'm like, I have to have line of sight with this guy because I want to shut up.
Right.
Yeah.
And let him do his things. Like if he's not going to sing, I'm not going to sing. And, it was a time before, all this, social media, of course, and smartphones and internet and all that stuff. It was largely a secret because, again, to Sharon's credit, like the press would have a field day with Ozzy. He would walk, he would trip over a rock and fall funny and go, oh my God, he broke, Ozzy's got this, or he's, and they would just ride him so hard in the press that she wanted to keep this quiet because in all honesty, it was me doing background vocals, doing all the harmonies on those records. Every once in a while, I would double a chorus. You know, if there's nothing to do, I bore easily. So I'm like, what can I do? I'll sing this part too, you know, unisons. And I mean, doesn't Bernard Fowler do that for the Stones?
Yeah, for Mick. Yeah. That's
Lisa,
Eric Singer did it for Paul Stanley too on the last couple of Kiss tours.
So there you go. And you know, I was kind of the secret weapon. But the crew, a couple of weeks into the tour in the States, I hear the crew, who's that guy singing backstage? Yes, it's you know. So, yeah.
Brian, let's talk. Obviously, you're a music heavy metal mogul. Let's talk about Ozzy's influence on the whole scene. And Phil mentioned it earlier, kind of on the modern bands. But you started Metal Blade Records in the early '80s. Ozzy was already solo at that point in time. I mean, what's Ozzy's influence on you and basically on Metal Blade in so many ways?
Well, I mean, the first and foremost, aside from you, Chris, I don't think any of us would be here if it wasn't for Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, they basically created a genre that begat, you know, all of these bands. And of course, there's not one single metal band, whether it's a guy in his 50s or a guy in his 20s, that isn't a huge Black Sabbath fan or Ozzy Osbourne fan and knows who he is and who they are. And that's been a massive influence. I mean, it's one of those things where I think when he passed, we were all kind of like, wow, it's like the guy that really created what we're all doing. And he was always around, and now he's not here anymore. It's like you said, it's almost like losing a family member because he was that close to all of us because of his influence and what he did. So yeah, I mean, none of that stuff would have happened. I mean, all this, you know, if you go back to, you know, Metallica, Slayer, just endless, you know, every band. That's why they were all there back to the beginning, because they all were like, hey, you created this for all of us to have this amazing life and all this amazing music that came out. It all begats to Ozzy from day one.
Right.
So, yeah, massive influence.
Frankie, you had the honor of opening for so many great bands and touring with so many great bands over the course of Anthrax's career. You guys toured with Ozzy. I think it was No Rest for the Wicked tour. Mm-hmm. How was that for you? You know, you're in your early 20s hanging out with Ozzy when he's at his crazy period. What did you learn what to do and what not to do from Ozzy during those shows?
I just watched it happen. Backstage was crazy because Ozzy was very much into it. I remember on a Stairmaster every day, you walk into Ozzy's dressing room. He's, I got to get in shape. He kept saying that. He just wanted to keep going. So full of energy. That's the great thing about Ozzy. He always had that great energy. I don't know if it was a nervous energy, but he wanted to achieve. You know what I mean? He didn't want to disappoint. That's the great thing about Ozzy. It was all about the fans all the time. And that tour specifically, I remember seeing Zach for the Zach still had his boots on, straight out New Jersey. You know, the whole New Jersey thing, man. It was great. The first tour, jamming with him in the dressing room. That was a great tour, especially for Anthrax. Ozzy just took us in and let us have it. You know, it was just one of those things. That's why he made so many bands open for him and gave them a career. So look, I'm in debt. You know, I'm indebted to him. I miss him. Look, the week after the show, we did this Comic-Con thing, and at the show, so it was very surreal for me because I was a little choked up because I still remember Scott, my guitar player Scott, Randy from Lamb of God. We went in, say hello to Sharon and Ozzy.
And this is in Birmingham, this Comic-Con.
Birmingham, the week after they did Comic-Con. It was great. It was wonderful. So we just went in for about a half an hour, just talking. And Ozzy, I'm telling you, man, he was joking. He was like just having a good time. I mean, he was coming up with the great lines. We're talking about remember when he shaved his head and he just did that whole thing. He just showed up with that because Sharon said, I didn't even know he did it. She had no idea. He just showed up at the show like that. It was just, and he was laughing. And I left there saying, I think we're good for a while. I left there, saying, I think we have some more time here. I was really psyched. And I left on a high because I really thought that we had some more time with him. And so when I got the text about what happened, it blew me out of the water because I did not see that happen. No way. But it was a crazy, surreal thing. But I am glad that I had the chance to have a laugh with him and say thank you.
Yeah.
Like, from my heart, thank you for making us be here. And that's the truth. And he was grateful for that. It was he was just a beautiful person, man.
Phil, how did you get into the Ozzy camp back in 85 or 86 or whatever it was?
Well, I sort of knew everybody. I knew Sharon. I knew her secretary quite well. I knew Ozzy. I mean, London was a very small scene. We all sort of knew each other. And it just became evident at one point that they needed a new drummer. And they auditioned Randy Castillo, who was a friend of mine from way, way back before, from when he played with Lita Ford. I'd been friends with Lita for a long time. And so I remember I thought I'd surprise him. I picked him up from the airport and took him to another airport and dropped him off. And we had a beer in the middle. And it was just a few weeks later, all of a sudden, he calls me and he goes, I think Ozzy's looking for a bass player. And I said, no kidding. He says, no, I think so. At the time, I was actually playing with Jimmy Page. I was in we were messing around in the studio with a band, just getting back into playing. He was trying to get back into playing, and I think that band eventually, turned into The Firm. And in the middle of this, I did a gig with this English guitar player that was on a live show. And I get back to the house afterwards, and it went really well. And the phone rings, and it's Sharon's secretary, and she says, "Here, somebody wants to talk to you," and puts Ozzy on the phone. And this voice is like, "Meet me at fucking Spirals in half an hour. I'll see you then." Hands the phone back.
That's pretty good.
So I go and meet him at Spirals, which was a local wine bar that we all used to go to in Hampstead. And I sat down, had a talk with him, and he said to me, "Hey, just saw you on that show. It was great. Do you want to come down and have a play?" And I said, "Gosh, yeah, I'd love to." And I was very excited about it. And went home. The next morning, I get a phone call, and it's Sharon, and she said, "I don't know what Ozzy told you last night, but he was drunk. And so whatever he said is all off." And I went, "Okay." And then it was just a few weeks later. I was visiting a friend who worked for Jimmy in Brighton, and we were just wandering around. He's a good friend of mine. His daughter, my goddaughter, and we were just wandering around. And we go past a joke shop, and this guy comes out and bangs into me, and it's Ozzy. And I said, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Well, I don't know, what the fuck are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm here visiting my friend." And he's, "What are you doing?" He's, "We're still looking for a bass player." "How come you never came down?" I said, "Oh, okay." I don't know. I mean, all of a sudden I saw that there was some kind of strange disconnect going on. So he said to me, "Look," he said, "go get a guitar, come down." I said, "I don't have a guitar." He goes, go up to London, get a guitar, come down and have a play. And I said, "All right, this is for real, right? I'm not going to get a call that says, it's a service station on the freeway saying, 'Hey, all bets are off.'" No, come down. And then basically I came down and I played with them, and it went on for a few 2 or 3 weeks, on and off. There was a couple of other people, but it was just, in essence, it was an audition process. And I think it was my birthday, and he came into the room and he said, I've got a card for you. Open it." And I said, "Okay, thank you." "Open the fucking card." I said, "Okay, I'll open the card." And I opened the card, and it said, "Happy birthday." When he goes, "Open it up." I said, "Okay." And I opened it up, and it says, "You old fart." And this is the funniest thing he'd ever seen. He started cracking up laughing. "Fucking funniest card I've ever fucking seen." Turned around. And then he turns around before he leaves the door and he says, "Oh, by the way, you got the gig if you want it." And that was how I got it. So it was kind of like, it was a very memorable moment. And
that's awesome.
It completely elevated everything that I had been doing from that point. And it just began a springboard into the beginning of my career, for which I'm eternally grateful. And it was such a special time for me. I too feel like everyone else here. I feel like it's like a book is closed. It's not forgotten, but the book has been closed. It's been finished. It's like writing a biography or something, and it's now closed. I was really, really glad that he was able to do such a fantastic concert to mark the end of such an incredible career. I mean, you know, sometimes you hear these horrible stories about some legend, and one day they pass away in a hotel room in the middle of nowhere. And this was really, it was just such a great feel-good moment, an emotional moment, to see everybody coming together and playing in that way and marking, and you could see it in his eyes. I mean, it must have been an incredible feeling that he had.
It's amazing. It's almost like he got to preside over his own funeral, like a celebration of his life in front of the fans who he loved and people watching in the millions. I mean, I was thinking about that. Like, it's weird because the same thing happened with Lemmy. Lemmy had his birthday party, his 70th birthday party.
Well, I was just going to mention that. And the other weird thing about that is that 17 days after Lemmy's party, he passed, and then 17 days after Back to the Beginning, Ozzy passed. So
yeah,
is that right?
Wow. What is even 17 days? Because I played at his concert at the Whiskey.
I was there too. It wasn't 17 days after that, Phil. It was 17 days after the last Motorhead gig, which was about a week before his party.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing where Lemmy got to be there. And remember, everybody was there playing all-star jams. There was videos. Just everybody was there. And then he passed away literally a week, 8-9 days later.
Yeah.
It's like we should all be so lucky to be surrounded by our friends and have everybody telling us, you know, how great we are before we pass away. I just thought that was kind of you know, I don't know if cool is the word, but just it's a very satisfying way to die, I think. What do you think, Robert?
And he was great. You know, he was really great there too. I think we were all kind of, you know, we'd all heard rumors, was only going to be a couple of songs, or, you know, might be bits and pieces here. And the fact that he did 8 songs and sounded great.
9 songs.
9 songs, you're right. Yeah. And sounded amazing. We were all like, I didn't go, but I was watching the stream with some friends of mine, and we're all like, wow, he sounds incredible. Did not expect that at all. So
and his
that
drive,
was really good too.
And even his drive, as he was singing, you guys saw this, as he was trying to he wanted to get out of his seat. You know,
his leg was moving back and forth.
Totally. And I just wanted to get up there and help. Let's do it, man. Let's just do it. You know, it just shows you what kind of soul he had. It's all for the show. It's all for the fans. And it just made me feel, yes, that's why I love this guy. That's why I love him, you know.
He was a genuinely generous person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To expand upon that, Robert, because once again, I was going to say this before. In my opinion, Ozzy's one of the top 3 greatest rock and roll singers of all time, especially heavy metal. For me, like, I think he is so underrated, and it's so. I was watching the Back to the Beginning and kind of not chuckling, but like, because so many guys went up there to sing these songs and they couldn't do it. I mean, not being a dick, but these are not easy songs to sing. You saw guy after guy get close and then falter. Robert, here you are singing for Ozzy. I mean, that's a fucking pretty huge task, man.
Yeah, those songs are no joke. And I mean, some of those melodies on a few of those early Sabbath records are just up in the sky. And I mean, it's, to your point, watching those, we had a work weekend, so I couldn't watch it in real time. I got home and I ended up watching the subsequent, you know, Sunday and then Monday, Tuesday afterwards, the whole YouTube thing, like many of us got to do. Credit to Axl Rose, though.
Yeah, he did a great job with the tunes that he chose.
You know, what's interesting about that is, you know, I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately and stuff, all talking about Ozzy. And I keep mentioning that too, about what an underrated singer he was, because he never really got a lot of credit for being this great singer, the front man and, you know, the TV show guy and everything, but he didn't get credit. And to what you said, Chris, you're exactly right. Like, that was the one thing that really kind of blew me away about that whole day, was how many amazing singers could not really do those songs justice. And they're great singers, and you would think that they should be able to, but it's like that, like it's tough. Even Hetfield had some trouble singing those songs. And, you know, again, you don't realize until you see people trying to do that, especially live, like how amazing Ozzy was, and his register was just insane.
It starts up there always. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it. I don't know his regimen, if he warmed up or anything, but it seemed like it just was there all the time. Every time I've seen Ozzy, his voice was just there. And how do you start there and go up? You know, it was just one of those great things, you know?
he was such a melodic singer too, and people discount or like you said, Chris, not really recognize so much. And Brian said the same thing. It's absolutely true. You'd hear the songs, and the songs had such like impact and affected all of us, and the music affects you emotionally too. And on top of that, there are lyrics that it's, you know, between Geezer and Bob Daisley and you know, our boy right here, Phil, and
Yep.
It's then you had Oz's voice, and he would always come up with these melodies to fit lyrics to, and sometimes just an inspirational melody thing. But you're right, like it was such a vital element that often went not unnoticed, but unregarded as highly as the impact of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
As a singer, I keyed into that immediately. He was always one of my favorite singers. Copying some of that stuff and doing a third harmony above some of those.
Yeah, imagine that, man. Wow.
Yeah, no, man, I love that. I honestly love that job. That was super fun.
So was he singing good on that tour, Robert? Like, why did they feel like they had to bring you in?
Immensely well. He was a noted massive hypochondriac as well. He pulled me aside. Some new flu had come out. And he goes, he goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm great." He's like, "Did you hear about the new flu?" I got it. I'm like, "You don't have it, Oz. We've been on. Come on, boss." And he's like, "No. The second something comes out, I go right to Sharon." It's like, "I got it," you know. But he was also notoriously low on sleep. I know he really loved during those years, and I mean, he was just short of 50.
Mm-hmm.
And this was 95, 96 on that tour. In fact, I remember
he would have been 50. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember sending around just short of 50. My God, that was a long time ago. Everybody was sending around one of the old VHS cameras, you know, put the tape in and things like this big, you know, it goes in a FedEx box. We got that in Germany, one of the last shows before we split for Christmas and New Year's. We were somewhere in Germany, Offenbach or Hanover, and this box arrives, and I walk in Oz's dressing room, and he's sitting there having a cup of tea. He's like, "Hey, Rob," you know, like that. We sit and talk. He's like, "What's this?" "Oh, we're wishing Lemmy a 50th birthday. Everybody's recording." And it got sent around everywhere. Like, and we wound the tape back and watched. You know, Frankie, you must have. Were they sending? Do you have any recollection of this? I saw James on it, and then like they get this clear spotted tape, and we always Lemmy, happy 50th birthday.
Yeah, he did that also. Yeah,
yeah,
it was awesome. But I remember the big. Yeah, it's a long time ago. Yeah, it's great though. It was so great.
But Phil, when Robert's talking about Ozzy being a hypochondriac and that sort of a thing, when you guys were doing the Ultimate Sin tour, did you miss shows from time to time? Because let me tell you the story quickly. See if you remember this. It was the summer of '86, and I was in Vancouver. It was the World's Fair was in Vancouver, and my mom had agreed to allow me to go to Ozzy with my uncle because we were there visiting from Winnipeg, where I'm from. And I was so excited because Metallica was opening, right? Metallica and Ozzy. And the day of the show, it's announced on the radio that the show is canceled because Ozzy is sick. And I was like, fuck, can't Metallica still play and Ozzy's band still play and Jakey Lee sings or something? And I was so mad because I wanted to see Cliff Burton too. I was a big Cliff Burton fan. Yeah. Do you remember, like, there's probably no way you would remember, but do you remember at times when shows would get canceled? Because I know Ozzy did that from time to time, especially in those days.
We seem to be destined to never really be able to play any shows in Illinois for some reason. Every time we played Chicago or whatever, and it was always the only time he would not do something is if something went horribly wrong, like the PA would go out, the power would go out, or whatever. And this happened to us a couple of times in Chicago, and the power went down, and he turned around and said, "Oh, that's it. We're fucking done. That's it. We only played 6 songs. Yeah, it's fine." So that would happen. I mean, I just wanted to tag on to something that Robert was saying. You know, I've worked with a lot of people over the years, as we all have. And one thing I would say that's really remarkable about Ozzy and very underrated I never, ever heard that guy go off pitch, ever, not once. It was amazing. I mean, you work with people and, you know, they have a good day, good night, and they have a bad night. And then sometimes they're not hearing themselves right, and they're pushing too much, going a little sharp or whatever, or they're too loud, going a little low. But he was able to pull that out of a hat at any moment. And that even applied in the studio, but live, it was remarkable. I mean, very few people have to say that about.
Yeah, you know, I have a story about that too that I find interesting. So when towards the end of Zach's era, when he was not doing so well, I went to one of the shows and Ozzy was just kind of standing at the microphone the whole time and not really moving around. And it kind of was kind of like, wow, that's kind of sad. He's standing at the microphone and the show, you know, wasn't all that great. So the next tour, Gus G's in the band, and I'd heard that the shows were amazing, and Ozzy was great, and the whole thing. And my buddy Blasco was playing bass for him at the time, so I was in Tampa, and they were playing a show. And I hate to be that guy. I called up Blasco. I go, I hate to be this guy. I know it's the day of the show, and I know how it is, but can you get me 2 tickets? Because I'd really love to go. I heard the show's great. He's like, yeah, no problem. We'll take care of you. I said, okay, great. So I go to the show. It's amazing. Like Ozzy's running all over the stage, you know, throwing water and everything. He's Ozzy again. And I was like, wow, this is really incredible. And so after the show, I asked Blasco, I go, so what happened? Like all of a sudden he's back to being the old Ozzy again. And he said, well, before, the reason he was standing at the mic the whole time was Zach was so messed up that he would go all over the place. He'd slow down, speed. So Ozzy had to sit at the microphone and follow what Zach was doing to make sure that it all worked so it didn't go completely off the rails. I go, that makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't really think, you know, Ozzy Osbourne is like thinking all these different things to make sure it works. But I had a lot of respect for that because you could easily just do your show and it wouldn't be perfect, but whatever. But he wanted to be so good, and he wanted the experience of the live show to sound so good that he just stood at the microphone to make sure that it was going to be good. So that was pretty impressive, I thought.
Amazing.
Conversely, he hated to warm up.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Now we do a fantastic show, and Phil, you're spot on right. His pitch was like otherworldly sometimes. He'd hit notes and just go, you can't hear it. I've been up on this stage so loud. but would hate to warm up, and I'd warm up before every show. That's, you know, it's like your checklist. Sure. Yeah, like last thing I do is pee before I walk on stage because, you know, like you've got your whole checklist of stuff you do the last few days. Stop eating around this time so that I can, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The whole thing. And I'm not, you know, really strict about that, but I would always warm up. And it was those first few weeks of going in all over Europe and the UK, Thanksgiving till Christmas in '95. And he hears me warming up through the walls. And I had spoken to Sharon. She says, Ozzy hears you warming up. It's like, yeah. I was like, oh, he hates to do that. He won't do it. You think you could convince him to warm up a little bit? And I'm in the band like 2 or 3 weeks, dude. I'm like, I don't know that that's really my job to go and say, hey, you know what I think you ought to do, pal? You know, it's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah, a couple of times he tried to. He would. I don't know who talked to him or something. He was backstage and I saw he was sort of trying to warm up, and it was something like it was like. Well, that's it. That's I'm ready.
His room was right next to the band room, and he's had to have a separate room. But he'd come in all the time, but he wanted to have his own space. And he's got a life cycle in there, and he's got a pair of boxing gloves, and he's hitting the wall and the whole thing. And I'm warming up in a towel because now I'm paranoid. I think like everybody can hear me. And I'm getting, you know, I go through the bottom of my voice, I get a little falsetto, I get like the bridge in between, and then I hear, and I swear to you this, but exactly, Phil, I hear. And I walk across and I go into his room and he's on the life cycle. Just like bat out of hell on life cycle, warming up. And he goes, I wanted to give a try all that woofta stuff you do before the show. And I'm like, you mean warming up? You don't know what is here? I have a tape, and he explained, I've got a tape, I've got a cassette or a CD or whatever from a vocal coach, but I don't really like to use it. But you're right. He would come out, and we'd usually open with "I Don't Know" most of the time during that tour.
That's high, man. That's
yeah.
that's high.
Think of that's your mark.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the bar is for your first song, and you're like, people, and God love him. He would just absolutely nail that to the wall, like every night. I'm like, okay, what do I do? I'm gonna do the bridge.
Yeah.
I'll wait till the bridge. You got this.
I think one of the things that appealed to so many people, fans, musicians, everybody, was Ozzy was just a guy, like all warts out, never had any illusions of being perfect, even though he wanted to be, but we're all human beings. Like, it just popped in my head. I remember we played Aftershock in Sacramento, and I was standing on the side of the stage with Rich from Fozzy. We had to get personal approval from Sharon to be allowed to stand there. But so Ozzy's singing Fairies Wear Boots, and he forgets the words. There's only 4 words in the whole fucking song. And he's like, going home late last night. It's gonna be now. And then he kind of looks over at me and he's like, fuck it. And I just like, I love that. Like, just like, what are you gonna do? Fantasy, and like, I just always love that about Ozzy. Like, there's no, like, you know, if you slip and fall on stage, we all have, you kind of like, there's 2 ways to play it. Right. You can make a joke about it and I'm the idiot, which most people don't do. Most people just kind of get up right away and they're kind of mad about it. Like, I feel if Ozzy fell on stage, he kind of would just be like, so what? And I
the song down there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love that quality about him. He just came across, especially when we saw the Osbournes on MTV, just a guy that was lucky enough to make it. And it just, I think it just really endeared himself to people that way.
That's the connection, right there.
Comedy. I mean, everything about Ozzy was tongue in cheek, and that's I think the thing that almost made it funnier, because when he was in character, like the minute he got on that stage, he was in character from the minute he got on that stage till the minute he got off. Everything was pretty much perfect, dare I say it.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of knew exactly what he was doing. Off that stage, though, it was all practical jokes, and it was all telling jokes. And you know, we went through a period where we would go jogging sometimes in the morning. And it was his excuse to tell jokes. And then he started telling me the same jokes over and over again. I was like, I told you that. Okay. So, but everything was humor. Everything was funny. A lot of practical jokes. Some of them you had to be kind of careful about, because the legendary, you know, the rookie that gets their eyebrow shaved off. You know, that was one thing that used to happen quite frequently. And, you know, so sometimes you had to have your wits about you and make sure you didn't, you know, one time I before then we didn't have like iPhones and stuff, but I was a bit of a photography buff. So I always carried a little camera around and take pictures. And one day I got back to England and I went to see my mom, and she said, oh, it was great to see her. And then she said, I'm going to the store. Do you need anything? I said, yeah, can you drop this film off, please? She goes, sure, no problem. And then she comes back and then she looks a little strange. I said, what's the matter? And she goes, I don't think I should be looking at these. And I go, why? What the hell's the matter with them? And all these pictures of Ozzy's ass spread and pictures of his genitals and stuff. And I'd left the camera like lying around. Okay, and then I told him it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard.
You don't leave your camera anywhere.
No.
Let's talk about Ozzy as a frontman, Brian. And Robert mentioned that too. We've been talking about just how great Ozzy was, you know, kind of leading the charge. And once again, I think underrated as a frontman, one of the all-time greatest in any genre for sure.
Yeah, you know, one thing too, if you look at the early 70s videos of Sabbath, he might have been the one that invented headbanging, because he's like banging his head. I don't recall anybody before that doing that.
It's a great point.
He was great. And yeah, always a great frontman. Always, you know, you could tell. I mean, you can tell when people are on stage, especially singers, like their rapport with the crowd. And he always had this amazing rapport with the crowd. And it felt like he was not like talking down to them. He's just talking to them like you're a friend almost, you know, we love you all that stuff. You know, really great stuff. That weird thing, though, I never got to see it live, but those years when Ozzy was to the side of the stage and Tony was in the middle, that was really unusual to say the least. But Ozzy still did his thing, you know, banging his head and running around and having fun. I think that's the one thing I always remember about seeing him, is he always looked like he was having fun. Just loved to be on stage. He's always a smile on his face and having fun, which, you know, heavy metal and Black Sabbath and everything's supposed to be dark and dreary and blah, but he's up there having a great time and, you know, just super fun. It makes those shows a lot more entertaining to see somebody up there really enjoying what they're doing. You tell even at the last show, you could tell he loved being on stage. He loved doing what he was doing, and that, you know, came through to everybody. And yeah, he's certainly one of the top 10 frontman in all of rock, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Frankie.
At any show, what I loved about Ozzy, you see yourself in him. He's just one of us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he has this amazing talent that maybe he's not even aware of or doesn't care. He has this amazing talent that's up there and just going for it and making us all. You never knew it was going to happen when you saw Ozzy Osbourne. The spontaneity, that you don't know what kind of crazy thing he's going to come up with. Great. That's why I'm going to see Ozzy. I know he's one of us, and I'm going to support that. I just want to see what happens. That was a show within a show.
That's a great point. You got that element of danger with Ozzy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which so many bands don't have. Like, I sound like in this day, but you never knew it was going on. I've been watching tons of Ozzy since back to the beginning, and then obviously since he passed as well. I was watching Rock in Rio right before you got in the band, Phil, with Jake, and I think Bob Daisley was on bass at the time. Maybe it was Bark at the Moon or something like that. And Jake's doing his Suicide Solution solo, and Ozzy he's clapping, and then he just stops. He gets this look on his face like this crazy fucking man. Then he goes over to Jake with his hands in the air like a monster, and then grabs his hair and pulls it. It's not in wrestling, we can pull hair. It's a work, we would say. He's not working. He pulled Jake's fucking hair down to the ground, and Jake's still playing. You might have seen this, Phil, when you were in that lineup. I was like, oh my, if someone came and pulled my hair like that, I'd be like, fuck off. But Jake went with it, and you could just see Ozzy was becoming Ozzy. Just, and it's so like, I just wanted to jump on stage and punch somebody. It was so cool.
Even the famous shot of him lifting Randy, that was spontaneous, man, right? You know what I mean? There's a live video of that. Like, he lifted the guy. I know Randy was smaller, but my God, still at that point, he just
Ozzy's not a giant. Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. It was amazing.
The funny thing was, part of that I remember, and the anything can happen, and Chris, you'll like this. He got these guns made, these rifles made that shot water, and there were two 55-gallon drums under the stage, dead center, feeding this with pumps, feeding this. And anybody remembers any of that part of the tour? He would go out, and it would shoot like 30, 40 feet out in the audience. Now, depending how big the deck is, he could get a band member as well. Soaked Randy's drums one night. Everybody was getting it, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm next. It's gonna happen. And it was wintertime, super cold. We're playing like hockey arenas all over the place, you know. So you get there in the morning and they're putting the boards down, and it's
the ice is still
freezing. Now my spot is off stage right behind the subs in my tent. I'm now in the music industry, the legend of the tent guy has come out. And we're like a few months, we're touring around the States, and he's shooting this thing out in the audience, and he turns to me and just full on pulls the trigger. These 55-gallon drums full are, I don't know where they get these from. They're like in a different, you know, we don't travel with them. They're they were in a bay in the one of the semis, so they just, you know, requisition 2 55-gallon drums, fill them with water to feed this thing.
Yeah.
The most vile stream of not exactly drinking water.
Sewage potable.
Straight at me. They were just, like I said, I've got like this, I got like 2.5 feet to see across the deck, and he just like a laser, like a Marine sniper, just hits me right in the face. Plasma rolls my eyelids back. It's so bad. So a week or two later, everybody's got bronchitis. We're all falling around.
Yeah.
Everybody's, you know, it's awful. So I'm sick, and I'm like doing everything I can to get my voice to come back to sing, right? and he's going to do it. And he does it to me and just pisses himself laughing. He's laughing so hard. Comes up after me after the show and rolls over. He's like, "Oh, I got you," and give me a big hug or whatever. I'm like, "I'll get you." I go to a local sporting goods store and I get a mask and fins and a snorkel to show up at the next show. And he's going to go do it again. I'm like trying to, and I see what he's doing, and he's shooting over past Joe, and he's like Joe Holmes, and he's like, Joe's like shying away, and he comes over and he turns the thing to me, and I know he's going to do it, and I've got the mask and snorkel on, and I go, drops the gun. He's laughing. He comes back after the show, says, "That was the best ever. Oh my God, I love you." I couldn't even sing. I couldn't put words together. It was.
Phil, did you have any crazy live stories with Ozzy, the front man?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Did I have any crazy stories of him?
Well, just with Ozzy live, we're talking about shooting water on Robert.
Well, I mean, there was he for years and years, Tony Dennis would dress up as the devil and come across with some water for him to drink, and he'd always take the water, have a drink, and then pour it over Tony. And Tony would be just
poor Tony Dennis.
Yeah. Oh, let's pour water over my head again.
Wasn't Tony wearing the helmet too? And didn't they put like a rubber snake in the helmet one time? And I heard that story from Tony.
He was the brunt of a lot of humor, and but he loved it being there. We loved him as well. He was a great guy, and he was just in his eyes, Ozzy couldn't do anything wrong. But he played along with it. I think one of the things back then was Ozzy was he particularly liked. Do you remember these little glass stink bombs?
Oh yeah,
he used to be able to buy.
Yeah,
he found stink bombs, and he found stink bombs. All of a sudden, he bought out the entire British supply of stink bombs. And this is before FAA regulations. I mean, you could put it in your checked baggage, whatever. And we'd go out on the road with these things, and they would show up in the most incredible places. One of the things he did, poor Bobby Blotzo, Rat were opening for us in England, and he'd say, "I've put a stink bomb under each of these kick drum pedals. Watch this." And Bobby would come out and immediately go and break these things. And he'd look up and he'd go, "The best part about this is nothing he can do. It's not like he can get up and walk away."
Right.
But there was, and these things would show up all over the place. They'd show up in hotels. They'd show up in restaurant vents. They would show up in, just a lot of practical jokes. One of the best ones, he had a band, I think it was a band that was opening for us, a small British band, just for 2-3 shows. And he got up to a 58 microphone, unscrewed it. It's got a little foam capsule inside. So he took the foam out, soaked it in this, and put it back. And this guy comes running up and goes, "Ah!"
Well, the apple falleth not far from the tree. A young gentleman out on our tour by the name of Jack Osbourne.
Oh, yeah.
When he was about 11 or 12 at this point, would do the same thing to me, come around, throw one of those in my booth, and then run away. And Jack, and I'd find him afterwards. I'm like, "Really? Was it you or the old man who did this to me?" He's like, "Oh no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me." I'm like, and then he got back.
Yeah.
But dude, a little white cardboard box filled with 3 little glass ampules, Phil.
Yep.
I still have one
You did.
in memorial.
Yeah.
In a case somewhere with a bunch of
that smell lasts, man. That lasts. We used to do that all the time. Oh man,
and you never forget that.
That's awesome.
That is an olfactory.
Brian,
I don't know if he ever did this, but he said to me one day. He said, "The best thing you could do is, you remember back then they'd have these big tubes that would bring. It was smoke. It was dry ice. It would bring them out, pump them out. He said you could put those in the tubes, and then when the smoke comes out, it smells really bad."
Mm-hmm.
So if he was doing that with an opening act or another actor, you wanted to play a joke on somebody, you could do that. I never actually saw him do that, but he did talk to me about it one time, and I thought that would be classic.
Let's talk a little bit about Sharon's influence on Ozzy. Brian, obviously running Metal Blade Records, I'm sure Did you ever have bands on Ozfest? Did you ever have any dealings with Sharon at all?
Oh God, yes. I mean, I think we had a band on almost every Ozfest. I know I went to all of them. I think probably certainly more than half. We had a bunch on there. I mean, the big one for me was the Sabbath Iron Maiden one, because that was, we had 2 bands out on that, and all my other friends were there. And I mean, those are probably, Chris, my favorite band is Iron Maiden, and Black Sabbath not too far behind them. So I think I went to 8 of those shows on that tour.
Wow.
And it was just phenomenal. And look, I try to be very careful and remain in Sharon's good graces, because you don't want to do the other way, because that's not so good. But she's always been really great to us, and always taking care of our bands and other stuff. Plus, John Fenton, who's her kind of and Ozzy's right hand man, is a good friend of mine. I've known him forever. He manages a band, Goat Whore, for us, so he's a great guy too. So that organization has always been super nice to us, and I mean, they say what you will about Sharon, but she always really cared about the metal scene and really trying to make it good and trying to bring, that's why they did Ozfest. Let's bring some other bands out on the road and try to get this scene even bigger. And that was a huge thing for us. Like, we had bands that weren't the biggest bands in the world, but all of a sudden you're going out and playing on these side stages at Ozfest, and there's 5, 6, 10,000 people there. And,
right.
These bands have probably played in front of 1,500 or 2,000 the most of the time. So yeah, it was great. And they like I said, they were always really great to us. And those Ozfests were just phenomenal, and nothing but huge respect for her. And just, I mean, you got to remember that when Ozzy left Sabbath, like, he was a mess. And he was living in a hotel in Los Angeles. I had friends that, were kind of around that scene. And it was literally just living in a hotel, drinking, doing drugs. I mean, people deliver pizzas. And I mean, he might not have made it out if he hadn't lasted too much longer. But Sharon came in, and she was the one that saved him. And I don't think anybody expected anything from him after Sabbath and after hearing all those stories. And then all of a sudden, all this Ozzy Osbourne solo record comes out. I knew it would be fairly good, because he had gotten Randy Rhoads in the band, and I got to see Randy when he played with Quiet Riot. One of my buddies was taking guitar lessons from him. He said, "We got to go see this guy. He's really good." So we went to the Starwood, like front row, right in front of Randy, and he was unbelievable. And band was not so great, but Randy was amazing. So I thought, well, he's got a really good guitar player. But that first Ozzy record came out, we were all like, "Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable! This is incredible! How did this happen?" And that was all on Sharon, pretty much.
Frankie, did you have experiences with Sharon over the years?
Great. For me, the ultimate thank you, just to let us be part of this show. You have to realize, after all this time, the tours we've done with Ozzy, we didn't know if we'd be allowed to be part of it. It was an honor. She's always been great to me, always been very cordial. In fact, the last time I saw Ozzy, we were tearing up. We were just tearing up because we didn't know the future. It was, I just said a really big hug and just said, thank you for everything. Thank you for having us. And look, I agree with you. I don't know if Ozzy after Sabbath survives without Sharon, right? She's been the backbone, the backbone. And look what she's done for music, really. She's put him in these places, and she's really built up this scene with him, and I'm very grateful to Sharon for what she's done for Anthrax to begin with. And especially the last show, just letting us say thank you, and not a goodbye, but thank you. It meant a lot to me personally. It's like, wow, it meant so much to me just growing up, loving Ozzy and Sabbath. So it's a big deal.
Phil, what was it like? I mean, I'll ask Robert the same question too. When you were on tour with Ozzy and Ozzy's band, was Sharon fairly hands-on? Was she on the tour doing the day-to-day? Because you got to think about, once again, Robert mentioned before, the spiral tour books. Now you can run a whole tour on your phone. Back then you had to pick up the phone at the arena and dial and do all this groundwork that you can't just do so easily now. So what was that dynamic when you were touring with Ozzy?
I mean, I still have my itinerary from that tour, or as we affectionately used to call it, the Book of Lies. Yeah, she was obviously fairly hands-on, but in that day and age, you couldn't do everything remotely. So she would have to be gone to other places. She'd be in London working from there. She'd be in New York, having to fly to New York to do record company business. She'd have to literally be in more than one place at one time. And of course, today you can do that with a computer. It's remarkable. We forget all these things. But she was hands-on. And, you know, if something went wrong or if something started going a little swirly business-wise, she would materialize almost immediately. And to her credit, I mean, I've seen her, without going into great detail, make some incredible decisions and do some incredible things that very few people would have been able to do. And so all credit to her for being a great manager for Ozzy. And she was very, very, very tough person as well. As I said before, I actually knew her from before. I sort of had a friendship relationship from back then. And when we started working together, you know, Randy Castillo lived in the States. So did Jake. So was Ozzy, and I pretty much lived in Hampstead. So I would spend a lot of time over at their house, socially, you know. And we got to be pretty good friends, and I had a lot of respect for Sharon, of course, still do. And she was just a great manager for him.
Robert, what were your experiences with Sharon?
She was the consummate pro, but as Phil said too, extremely generous and wonderful, but very protective, and clearly protective of Ozzy. Like I said earlier, I touched on how the press would have a mad field day with him about anything, or, you know, and I know she felt that mother hen thing around the band. I've seen her be so friendly and caring and like, hi, darling, how are you? How's everything? Okay, I have to be up, and walking by the production office, and, you know, she sees me, hi, come here, how's everything going? Are you having a good time? Excuse me a second. You motherfucker! Like, on the phone. And but a fierce business person and manager and protector of Ozzy and the whole camp and entourage and everybody. But extremely generous too. You know, I went out there and she would walk in the dressing room after a leg of a tour. She said, we did really well. And she'd walk in with manila envelopes full of $100 bills for everybody. Out of nowhere, and just go. And I mean, that's a monetary thing, you know.
No, but it makes you feel good though.
Yeah.
But she made everybody like,
yeah,
look you dead in the eye and said, we did really well this past, you know, 6 or 8 weeks or whatever, this leg of the tour. You have 10 days off. Go have fun. And I'll see you. And she knew the next city, you know. There were times I said, back to the Ozzy being funny thing. We would riff Monty Python Life of Brian lines incessantly for probably a couple of months there between John Sinclair, myself, and Oz. And he would say them on stage, you know. But and back to the Sharon thing, I do remember one time passing him in the hallways in arena somewhere, and he's, you know, hey Rob, so you having a good time? I'm like, yeah, I'm having a blast, Oz. It's gonna be a great show. He says, oh yeah, well, enjoy yourself. Fun's over. Sharon's coming to the next city. You know,
it's funny you talk about protective as we start to wind down. We were at Ozfest, and you mentioned Zach having some issues back at a certain point in time, and I was right there with him. We were pretty bad, and we were I think Dallas or Phoenix or something, and we were, you know, had a couple cocktails, and Zach decided he wanted to play baseball in the parking lot back where the buses are. So Zach goes under his bus. He's got 2 gloves, fucking shitty gloves. He's got a bat. And he's like, yo, you pitch to me and I'll you know, I'll hit it. So I throw a ball. It's terrible. He's laughing at me. People are gathered around. I'm like, I'm going to be Nolan Ryan on this one. I throw this pitch. He hits it square on. It goes right over the fence into the parking lot. And Zach's celebrating, home run. It's a fucking home run. And then we hear this, what the fuck are you doing? And we turn around. And here comes mom, as Zach calls her. Here comes Sharon in a pantsuit, and it's like 100 degrees out. And she's like, what are you doing, Zach? If that ball hits a punter on the head, we lose the whole fucking festival. What's wrong with you, Zach? And then she looks at me and she goes, and who the fuck are you? I'm like, I'm just, she goes, you're fucking nobody. You're both nobody. Get out of my face. Get out of here. So we're running back to the bus, And we're terrified, grown men, jacked to the gills, fucking, open the bus, Zach, open the bus. I'm trying, brother, I'm trying. Open the bus, get on the bus. She's screaming at us. He can't, sometimes you can't hit the keypad on the bus. And it's not working. And he's like, I can't remember the, just open the fucking door.
Like a horror movie. You're trying to find a key to get in the door.
Yes. And we closed it and we locked the bus door. We're so scared that she's going to follow us. And we just sit down and we're just like, and then we look at each other just so laughing. Oh my God, we're in so much trouble. But yeah, she was very protective of that whole thing. But yeah, who the fuck? Last few questions for you guys. I mean, so many great Ozzy stories. I'm sure you all have a personal one, maybe that we haven't discussed yet. And while you're thinking, if you need to, I'll give you one of my favorites. He came and hosted WWE Raw one year. He was the guest host. So he did a bunch of skits and all that sort of thing. And he did one with me. And afterwards, I was just sitting there. I had some time and I was, I knew him a little bit, but it's fucking Ozzy, right? Like, I'm not like you guys where you like were in the inner circle for a bit. So I'm, just kind of nervous and I'm asking him. So I was like, I'll ask him the question I've always wanted to know. What do the initials stand for? So I'm like, what do these initials stand for? And he started by saying, well, whenever I was trying to think of a title for a song, if I couldn't think of something, I would just use initials. And sometimes they just stayed. And so I was like, well, what does AVH stand for? That's on No More Tears album. He says that stands for the Aston Villa Highway, which I guess is the highway going towards the stadium. And then I'm like, well, what does NIB stand for? Does it stand for Not in Body? He's like, no. When we were coming up with the song, Bill Ward was playing it. He had a fucking beard that was pointed like the nib of a pencil. So I just called it Nib. So that's what NIB stands for. Cornelsi was nib, like the nib of a pencil. And then I'm like, SATO. What does SATO stand for? Does it stand for Sail Across the Ocean? And it's like, no. At the time, I was just starting to date at the time, Sharon and I were starting to be together, but I was still with my wife and she was still with her boyfriend. So it stands for Sharon, Allen, and then he stops to think for a few seconds. Thelma, Ozzy. He couldn't remember his ex-wife's name, but it's Sharon, Allen, Thelma, Ozzy. And I was like, I don't know if that's true or not, but fuck, that's a pretty cool information to get from Ozzy himself. Sharon, Allen, Thelma, Ozzy. So there you go. Frankie, you got an Ozzy story?
My whole, we did that Antisocial video and Ozzy was at the end.
Oh yeah.
And remember he took the big Knot Man head off?
Yeah.
And just, they had to really try to get Ozzy in one place for that. Because he's always running room to room. It was really hard to get. That was my fanboy moment. It all came to me that moment right then and there, growing up with Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. And I said, I can't believe this guy's going to be in the video that we're about to put out. And it's all coming to fruition right now. Like I think we made something here. I think we're doing something right here. Like we made it right when he was in the video.
Yeah.
It was when he took off the helmet, it was him. It was like, wow. It was just one of those real moments. That was probably my favorite time ever. Just being next to him with my band and Ozzy. It was a very big deal to me. A kid growing up loving him, and to this day, it's
the sign of legitimacy for Anthrax.
Yeah, yeah. And then the video did well, and because Ozzy was in it, right? It was just a really wonderful experience. So I'll never forget him.
Brian, you got an Ozzy story?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to hang out with him too many times, but I just find it funny because I probably was able to talk to him 4 or 5 different times over the years. And it would either be you'd see him and you'd start talking to him and there's nobody home. It's just blank. And you're like, okay, that's going to be a quick one. But then there were other times where I talked to him and he was incredibly smart and sharp, and we talk about the music business and what's going on in the music business. It's going with all these things that we talk about in a very unmusician like manner. Like he's talking like a, he knew what was going on and he wanted to know more about what was going on. I always love those stories. And again, like Frankie said, you're talking to him, you're talking to a guy, and then, a couple minutes in, you're like, I'm fucking talking to Ozzy Osbourne about this stuff. This is just mind blowing. If you had told, 14-year-old me that I'd be doing that, I would never believe. But always super nice and super kind. Like I said, everybody in that organization and his band members and everybody always been super cool.
Robert?
2, so I'll make them both short. Walking down the hallway in probably somewhere in Germany during that tour in '95, and his door's open. And I walk past his hotel room door, couple doors down from mine, and I hear the, "Hey, Rob." So I stop, take a walk back. He says, "You want a cup of tea? Fancy cup of tea?" I'm like, hell yes, someone to sit. It's like a day off. We're sitting somewhere. He's got his road case opened up with like a TV and VCR, and he's got all these History Channel, World War I, World War II VHS tapes. Just sat, had a cup of tea with him. Neither of us spoke damn near a word. Sitting there watching the History Channel, I'm like, what is this? This is what my life is right now. Like, this is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
The other one was Letterman in the summer of '96. We had taped the show, and we all go back and we're staying on Central Park South. It's a place. It's now the Nico. It was the Essex House growing up. Like, I remember that hotel on Central Park South my entire life. The commercials on TV, the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? See, Frankie gets it. We get back. We're gonna watch it when it airs, and it was Tony and Oz because they had adjoining suites. And my room was one down, so we all go into Ozzy's suite. And we're sitting around on the bed, and like, Mike Borden was there as well. So Ozzy loved cigars. We brought back a ton of cigars from Europe, and he brought a box of those big Churchills, the big monster Cohibas that Dave Letterman smokes.
Mm-hmm.
We're all sitting down. Ozzy liked the little Robustos. Everybody gets cigars. Ozzy passes cigars around. We're sitting in his room at that hotel watching the beginning of Letterman, and knock on the door, and it's somebody from Letterman's office bringing Ozzy another box of cigars.
Oh, that's cool.
And sitting around again, just going, like, really?
Yeah.
So fun.
How about you, Phil?
Oh man, there's a lot of stories. I mean, some of them funny. And he was his life mission. First of all, absolutely, Robert. Maybe people don't know this, but he was a complete history buff. That was the one thing he was completely passionate about. Would watch these documentaries. Just sit down, watch this, and you'd find yourself watching all of these things with him. But he made his life mission, I think, was to try to get me to get a tattoo, which the one thing he didn't accomplish because I don't have any tattoos. But there were many occasions where I'd find myself out in a rainbow or something with, "You're getting a fucking tat tonight." No, I'm not getting a tat. You're getting a tat. He'd have a few drinks, give me a few drinks, and then go to a sunset tattoo where he invariably would end up getting another tattoo. And then I would get a phone call from Sharon. "What the fuck is he? What did you do to him last night?" "I didn't do anything." "A tattoo." So there was those moments. But I think one of the most endearing ones for me was that when I joined the band, he was so excited about taking somebody to America who'd never been to America before, that he was kind of almost living vicariously through it. He rediscovering America. And he would say to me all the time, "When we get there, we're going to go and take a limo, and a limo's a big fucking stretch, and then we're going to go to New York, and then we got to go to this place for breakfast, and we got to." Well, everywhere we went was just like reliving his first times in America. That's a memory that I can take with me, and I'll never forget. And it means a lot to me. I was very, very thankful for those moments, but it was a special bond that I had, with Ozzy. It was a sad time when I left the band because, as we said earlier, that Sharon could be a very, very tough manager, and she's give you anything that you need when it's working, and do the opposite. And I just was not really able to cut a deal going forward that was going to work for me, and I left, and I think she took that very personally. So from that point, it was I got to experience a great distance from somebody who I'd been quite friendly with, but for no other reason. But taking those memories of coming to America the first time with Ozzy, was just amazing. It was just unbelievable.
Last question for you guys. It's a two-parter. What's your favorite Ozzy song, or Sabbath, either one? And what does Ozzy mean to you? And what does Ozzy mean to the metal scene overall? Brian, you want to start with that?
Sure. Favorite Sabbath song is Symptom of the Universe. Favorite Ozzy song is Bark at the Moon. Like all of us know the great J.K. Lee. I mean, again, Ozzy, like I mentioned earlier, Ozzy pretty much means everything. I owe to him and Black Sabbath. I owe my life and career and everything, because if it wasn't for them doing what they did, I highly doubt that I would be doing this. So just gratitude to them, and creating something so amazing, and just bringing this incredible music that we all love to the world, and really, again, kind of being the godfathers and grandfathers of this whole thing. And if it wasn't for Sabbath, who knows what might have happened. So just gratefulness for all of that and all the things he did. I mean, the other thing too is that TV show was such a huge thing for metal, because all of a sudden he's a household name. Everybody knows who Ozzy is. And now all of those people are discovering heavy metal, and they're discovering all the other heavy metal bands. And that was a huge moment that people don't give him enough credit for. It was like, yeah, TV show is really huge and all that, but it brought an entirely new generation of fans to this music, which again is just so amazing. And his personality was incredible.
I'll go next. My favorite, I got into Ozzy first before Sabbath, and then backtracked. So I've always loved Ozzy solo more. Diary of a Madman as a song is probably my favorite. I think it epitomizes everything that Ozzy is and his music. When I started backtracking, of course, we love all the hits, but fucking the one that still gets me to this day, and had I been invited to Back to the Beginning, I would have done it, is Megalomania. That is such a fucking crazy song. I mean, it's super high. If you have the right range, you can do it. But it's like a Rush Dream Theater, prog rock, batshit crazy tune. Whenever I hear it, I'm like, fuck, this is great. And I think Ozzy, once again, I grew up in Winnipeg. It's a very kind of working class city, kind of a Canadian Birmingham, maybe in a lot of ways. But Ozzy was still, and is still to this day, kind of the most favorite artist in the city. Everybody fucking loves Ozzy. And like we touched on earlier, it's because he's just an everyman. He fucked up. He had mistakes. I mean, if Ozzy was around now, he would get canceled in a second for shooting cats and killing chickens and trying to murder his wife and pissing on the Alamo. And it's like, he's just a fucking guy that had a lot of flaws, but had a good heart. And I think we all see ourselves in him in a lot of ways. And plus, the greatest romance in not just rock and roll history, maybe show business history, of Sharon and Ozzy. I think that's something that's a little bit underrated too. So I just fucking love Ozzy, man, so much. And it's sad to see him go, but man, that music, even up to Patient Number 9, his last record, I'll never stop listening to it ever. Robert, what do you think? Favorite Ozzy song? What does he mean?
For me, well, see, Sabbath first, because I remember hearing that as not really in real time, but I'm the oldest, so I had to live with my parents' music, but I had friends with older siblings, so we would go and go over to friends' houses and listen to that stuff. But seeing obviously pre MTV performances, but television performances of songs, or seeing the quote unquote videos before they were even called videos. You'd watch like rock concert, you'd watch, Don Kirshner, you'd watch Midnight Special. But for me, Paranoid, I know it's like all over the place, but it's just because that's maybe one of the first memories I have. And then rediscovering the records. And I always loved to sing Goodbye to Romance live. And with it having the privilege of being able to do that on tour, doing that song, it's just melodically beautiful, and it's one of those melodies. The second you hear it, you're like, "Wait, I've heard this before." But this guy invented this, and you're just singing along and along for the ride. Those have got to be mine.
Phil?
Yeah, I have to concur with your choice. Wow, that's a great one. But I think that I'm actually with Robert on this. I'm Paranoid. That was the song that kind of broke it all open for me. You know, as far as Sabbath, the first thing I remember, the most memorable thing I remember, and it was just different. As far as Ozzy's solo stuff, I mean, the epic nature of Diary of a Madman, I think that says an awful lot about the Randy Rhoads influence and how it goes through all those different stages. I love that. I love that track. As far as playing, I loved playing Flying High Again. I loved playing I Don't Know. Those are the two that I had the most fun, I think, playing live. And of course, you know, Bob is. I don't think he's underrated, but he's not recognized as much for how great of a bass player he is. I mean, he's a terrific bass player
and a lyricist too,
and a great lyricist. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, there were a couple of bass players that were big influences on me. Trevor Bolder was one of them, and Bob was definitely another big influence. He's an amazing bass player. So I love playing his lines. Is what I was going to say.
Frankie, finish it off. Your favorite Ozzy Sabbath, and what does Ozzy mean to you into metal?
Wow. Well, we got lucky enough to play Into the Void. That's always been that. Just the bass.
Joey sounded great on that, by the way. He fucking
thank you. Yeah, I thought so too. He did a great job with that. And you know, it's hard with the Ozzy solo stuff. There's so many great songs. Also, I got to play that Believer. With the jam group, with the All-Star group. I got to play that. It's all bass. I know, a little selfish, but you know, it's just Bob Daisley. You know, it's just an amazing song. There's just so many. What Ozzy has meant. Look, let's face it, man. He made metal cross over into the mainstream in a big way with his solo records. Really, those were hits. Those songs, I don't know, you know, all these great songs went on to radio, and I really think he opened our audience for metal in general. And look, he was the guy. He was leading the charge. You can't ask for more than that. And I have to say something, Chris. You touched on this a little bit before. One of the greatest romances. Till the end, him and Sharon, till the end. When I saw them at Comic-Con, you know the beauty, and it still gets me a little choked up. Just seeing her look at him and give him the hug and the kiss, like it was day one, like it was day one of their romance. And just till that, and he's in a wheelchair, and she's hugging him and kissing him, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. And I have to say that to people. That story. It was just till the end. I saw it right in front of me. It's like, this is just poetic. It was poetic and beautiful. So I don't think that gets enough credit. And just Ozzy in general, I'm glad he'll be celebrated forever. And I'm glad he was part of our lives. You know, we got really lucky to have an Ozzy Osbourne in our lives. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. Somebody said something
so many times, like, she saved my life. To your point, right? It's like, yeah, you know.
Well, and somebody said, now we embark in a post-Ozzy world, which is so strange because he's been part of our lives for pretty much, well, for my entire life at least. But guys, it's been great talking with you. We could probably talk for another 3 hours on this, but I'm glad we got to do this and pay tribute to the greatest of all time. People throw around the word GOAT way too fucking much. Ozzy is the greatest of all time. I think we can all agree on that. So,
Agreed. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having
guys.
Me. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Nice seeing everybody.